The views and opinions of the bunker are that of those individuals taking part and are by no means a reflection of the University Gallery, Gallery North, and sometimes the individuals themselves.
Yeah, well done. So you got through.
That's actually the first time it's been said properly. Like the bit in the middle, University Gallery, Gallery North.
Gallery North.
I enjoy saying it like that. Welcome to the bunker. Today we are called Over and Out because
It's our last one.
it's our last bunker from
Gallery
Gallery
North.
North. We probably
Sadness.
might. Well, that's a question.
Yeah,
Are we over and out? We're over and out from here. We're not necessarily over and out.
Yeah, because the exhibition's finishing tomorrow,
Saturday.
Saturday. All right, guys.
Gosh, Olivia, pull yourself together. I'm talking to myself there.
But will we continue with this? Who knows? What is going to happen? Probably take a little break from each other.
So guys, that was the bunker. Thank you for listening.
Ed, you're not wearing a bunker top.
Yeah, but he's wearing grey, so we're just
I'm
gonna
like
pretend.
solidarity. I didn't realise we were all wearing grey.
Yeah, but have you got your white one?
No, I just
Even
I have
Malachi's got
already
grey on.
shown you.
Yeah, look, even Malachi's more prepared
See,
than you.
well, I didn't think about it. Well, no one
Ed,
listening
you've
is
been
going to see that
replaced.
we're.
Malachi, you're
Malachi, take a seat.
So, we've learned a lot about friendships. Ed is not our friend.
Bye, Ed.
Bye.
Well, we've got Malachi here today, being excellent photographer, documenter.
Photographer.
Hello, darling.
Because how else would we document a radio broadcast other than it being online?
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Is that a question?
That's a challenge, actually. How are we going to document this afterwards?
Well, we've got it, haven't we? It's all up there.
But say in print format,
Got our list.
Well, what format would you like it to be documented in, Ed? Because it
Well, I'm
sounds like
asking
you're
a question.
interested. I'm
Yeah,
now
Ed.
asking the question.
what would you believe I would like to do it like?
What?
I
Like-
believe you would
Like.
to make a table and to steal to steal this round table.
Oh, I do. We are sat around a table at the minute, and we chose it because we felt like there was never going to be a head of the table.
Yep.
And I do like the round table thing. I was talking to Liv before this, and I was like,
No, you weren't.
no, I wasn't.
I'm not part of this.
God damn, the
No, he
bunker's a
was.
sham. About how the round table is like a good
Archive.
Not going to say that word.
I love round tables.
facilitator.
I think it's very facilitative as a piece of furniture.
Facilitative.
Facilitative.
That's the one.
Facilitating.
Facilitative.
Indoor voice.
I don't know words.
I don't know any words.
Facilitative?
Basically, round tables are good because you're
So
like praised. I don't know.
present
You all
in the
have
space.
equal
Well, I
chance to speak.
liked how we organised it, and like with guests, like who we thought might have chemistry, sat them opposite, and it rather than like a round table,
So,
sitting people
for
opposite.
example, not putting people next to
Friends.
their friend who's
Yeah.
a guest.
So I
I
guess
mean,
that
we're all
first
sat near each other right now.
friendship- that first friendship, we're all sat around next to each other. Yeah.
What
We're all friends here.
Oh yeah.
are we? Looking at you, Ed.
I am shook.
To the bone.
I feel
Would a
quite
friend
attached
have
to
let
my
me
space.
drink so
yeah.
much?
Oh, actually, yeah. We've not moved from these spaces.
Louis and I
actually,
would
no,
not
Liv
like to
did.
swap.
Liv
Did
is
Liv
the only
do?
one that swapped.
When,
You swear.
With,
but she didn't really.
When?
I
When
went
we
this
had
way
people
with Charlie the
between
other
us.
day.
Yeah.
Did I go over there?
No, Sophie's
Everyone-
the only one that swapped.
I came right next to Charlie.
Okay.
and
I went
Dom
there.
had this seat.
No.
Don.
Dom?
Everyone,
What's his name?
Dom. Everyone always calls him Don. Like my granddad does.
I thought that's how you
Don.
introduced him.
Dom. Dom.
Okay.
With an
Don makes him
M.
sound like a
with a
mafia boss.
silent B.
The cartoon mafia boss.
Oh.
Dom like Dominic.
Does
Yeah,
anyone
Dominic.
ever call you Milici? Milici?
Yeah.
Do they?
So Malak.
Keisha, Malachi, Malaki, Milky Bar Kid,
Milky
Milky Ass. It goes on.
The variations.
Malaki.
Do you want to? Oh, so Liv's also got a little starter thing because I feel like we needed a little bit of a starter because some people aren't quite coffeed up this morning.
Should do Gail's yoga thing. She gets it.
Shall we do that quickly?
Yeah.
Well, for the people listening, it's not going to be that very
No, but
beneficial.
we'll talk them through it.
Yeah.
Through the microphone, and they can do it as well in their studio.
Yeah.
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 Okay, everyone. Charlie, can you remember it? Can you talk
Right.
us through it?
Well, it's stretch
But
over
you're
and
going to
over.
have to talk loudly
Yeah.
because
Right, stand up in your
Stand
studio,
up.
people.
Malaki, you join as well.
Oh, no.
Stand up if you're listening.
Right. So you want to stretch up your arms all the way to the top, and then eventually you want to start to let your body go from your hips forwards, kind of push your bum out,
At a 90-degree angle.
and fall down until gravity takes over, and then just dangle, and just stay there for about 30 seconds.
And just stay there. Doesn't it like dangle and move a bit?
it's great broadcasting.
Let your knees go.
We're currently upside down. Great content, guys.
Let your knees go.
Don't get my bum.
I'm aiming for heads.
Right, then slowly start to bring yourself back up, leaving your shoulders and neck till last. Stretch your
And
lower
then
back.
wiggle around.
And then wiggle off.
You feel invigorated, reinvigorated,
I feel
rejuvenated.
absolutely fantastic.
Oh, good.
I now feel like I'm a fresh person.
This is weird. Like
Okay, Olivia is now going to do an activity and she's currently wandering around handing us little bits of paper. We don't really know what her activity is, but we'll go with it.
Why? And we're doing
She's
this
just
because.
fluffing it up in your
Yeah.
hand.
I think she's just...
Why are we doing this?
stroking
Because
my
we
hand.
really enjoyed the activities.
No, the activities
yeah.
from
Art and-
Art as an Experience. that we
Malachi,
did.
I don't think you're not doing this.
So, oh,
Can we look yet?
It's like mixing.
Okay, right
It's a
now,
fumble, but
basically, Malachi. Oh, we need Louis.
Louis, if you could please come to the diary room.
Louis is the
Gallery
fellow
intern?
Intern. Here at Gallery North.
Yeah. Louis?
He has been our avid listener for most of the.
Avid listener, avid Instagrammer.
Yeah.
Oh,
If you can see them, that's fine. But
Wait,
don't look at them yet.
Oh, okay.
Whoa, okay, so... Okay.
Huh?
are you sitting down or?
Yeah. Well, I think Louis can sit here just while we do it.
Okay.
Take
Welcome
a seat.
Louis
Oh,
to
I
the
get to sit
bunker
down.
table.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry, Malachi.
This is the first time Louis has
Oh, and he kicks the table.
had a seat.
Right, what's happening?
Wait.
A
take
seat
this.
at the table.
A seat at the table rather than his
Electric
desk.
shock? Okay, that was really bad shuffling. Okay, so what you want to do is organise them into a pair. So find a pair within those
Do I look
three
at them?
words, yeah.
Oh, they're words.
Oh,
I
the
literally
scribbling
just
is
thought it was-
words,
And
is
it's
it?
not really in depth, it's just find a pair.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Are we allowed to put them on the table?
Yeah, so put them on the toilet table when you decide. On the 12.
Leave the other one on its own.
Ooh, this one's really hard.
Just choose a pair, it's really not that like.
Don't overcomplicate it.
Okay, I've done it.
Okay.
And leave them like so visible.
Okay.
So like remove the one that you don't want to be
Right.
shown.
Okay.
Whoa.
So edgy.
Are we allowed to look at other people's?
Okay, right.
Nice.
So if everyone just wants to say what they chose for people listening. So basically, what are the three? Maybe you explain. What are the three words you can see, and then what have you chosen?
I have train, bus, and track, and I have chosen train track.
What about you, Charlie?
Train, bus and track. Train, track.
Train,
And we were
bus and track. Bus and train.
Ooh. I went for train track.
Yeah.
And I had bus as well.
I also went for train track.
Is that the same as Ed?
Same as
Train
that.
track.
Same as Ed.
Oh.
Everyone except Katie,
Katie.
who has
Yep.
to be different.
So basically, what it means is that if you choose train and bus, you're thinking more. You're maybe more of like an individual within your process, and you think of yourself as like the leader within your realm. That's what it's meant to be. And then,
Katie's face
and then
says
if you-
otherwise.
If you choose train and track, it's meant to say that you're more like collaborative. You think of yourself
Oh.
within the context of a bigger picture.
Oh,
I'm collaborative.
okay, so do you know how we were just saying that this round table is like
Yeah.
Oh.
really big? There's no head
I'm
of
at
the
the head
table.
of the table.
The
No,
silent
it's
one
just
is the head of
silence. It's not a negative thing though. It's not meant to be a negative thing. It's just meant to be the
We're
person
just
in
turning
training.
it
It's
into
just
a negative thing.
someone that sees themselves as like more pragmatic.
What would it have been if you'd done bus track?
That
Ooh.
would be just incorrect.
Oh,
There is a wrong
Two
answer.
ways.
There is a wrong answer.
There is a wrong answer.
Get off the course.
so how's actually what constitutes a train track? Well, okay, this is just going to be a really weird tangent.
I
right
get
now.
what it's doing,
It's because
obviously.
the metros in France
Yeah.
are on tyres rather than trains. So are they buses?
I get what they're trying
Oh.
to do though, because like bus and
So
train
bus
is
tracks?
association, whereas train tracks are
Yeah,
literal.
it's more of
Boom.
a
So bus track is
connection,
correct.
more loose,
I'm just-
but it's more like
Worldy.
So worldly.
grouping rather than a word
Oh,
association.
I'm sad.
Okay, don't be sad.
Kate, one of us had to go.
One of us had to be
I suppose
different.
it's going to be
One
you.
of us- If we all had chosen train track, that would have been boring.
Yeah,
But
you're,
we all had chosen
you're
bus
secretly
track.
really happy that because otherwise, how would you explain?
Secretly, we had this conversation.
Olivia, when you did this, what did you choose?
I chose train and track.
Oh.
But
Of course you
Nick
did.
chose train and bus, I think. But it was it was us four of us that did it. So one of them does law, one of them was me, another person did medicine,
law.
and another person was Harry's trained to be a social worker. So it was like quite different people, but there was like quite a difference, which was interesting.
Fair.
That was fun.
So do it with your friends and see what they
I
say.
will do it, my
If
friend.
you're listening, do it with your friends.
Oh, but then back to what I said in
Back
the
to
original.
week one. That
Back to
brings us
week one.
really nicely into summarising week one. Ed, what did you say on week one?
What was it? Sexual friends.
He just kept going on about having sex with friends.
It
And we
was-
were all like,
you were taking it the wrong way.
we were reading out the definition of friendship. Is that when it happened? Yeah.
Yes.
And then he started.
And then he
saying
just
he
kept
likes-
looking at he kept looking at some of our listeners in the gallery and being like, sex with friends. And they were very uncomfortable.
Yeah, just sat on the beanbag.
I think he caught him
like,
wink
"What's
at some
going on?"
point.
He did wink at Russell. Pretty
Well, you
I
know,
don't think you had the voice out.
no. So, in terms of friendship, if we're recapping, how do you think friendship
Thanks, Louis.
has worked?
Thanks, Louis.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Louis is wearing a really cool jumper, by the way, for our listeners, which you can't see, but it's got like McDonald's chips on it.
I'm pretty sure it's the only one in existence.
Really?
It doesn't have any labels on it.
Oh my gosh, you're so
Yeah.
original.
So quirky.
Sorry, Ed.
Did you like that little activity, or is it?
I
sad?
loved it.
It's good though. I think
Katie's
train and track.
Kind of sad.
It's
but-
quite interesting, but I think it's also a bit of a cheat because like train track, you could kind of easily get like.
Well, and
Yeah.
train track's an
Oh,
actual
well.
thing, isn't it? Like,
I
you're just
didn't
gonna
get
go, oh, yeah,
that.
makes sense.
What's
But
the
it's kind
track
of
track?
like,
But
yeah, it kind of cheats you a bit.
I don't think it's bad that you did that or
Yeah, I don't
surprising,
think it is.
because I'm thinking back to our feedback, which we received collaboratively, and they banged on about how you do have a very independent practice as well as doing collaborative projects. So I'm not surprised by
That
your
you
choice.
you can do both.
I can see.
Maybe more than we us guys can.
I can see it for me now as well, because I'm starting to do less independent stuff and more
Yeah.
stuff with other people.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to friendship. What were we saying? Didn't you start before you were said by Louis? You were like, oh, let's summarise.
Oh well, I was just like, kind of what kind, in terms of friendship, how do you feel like it's gone over the last 8 shows
What, between us?
between us, yeah, and
Yeah.
how it's helped and progressed through the bunker. Nothing personal wise outside of. Wait, actually no, because then we started talking about professional friendships and
Yeah.
other
Yeah, you
friendships.
can't ignore
So
it.
actually, what did we say in that first bunker?
We
We were
were
saying that there was a
talking-
blurred.
Yeah, we were definitely talking about how it was hard to have clear boundaries because your personal and your like professional creative lives are so closely intertwined, and
Because you work with your friends
Yeah.
on projects.
Yeah.
And you can't.
and then you socialise with your friends, but then
Yeah.
when you're socialising with them, you might end up talking about the projects that you're working on. So
Yeah.
it's like
And that can
Yeah.
that can for some people get quite stressful as well, having that switch off. I know for me it does sometimes, like especially with work. Sometimes for me, if I go away, it's like don't want to talk about it, but it always sometimes I even bring it up and I'm like, why have I done that? But it just ends up coming full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faux show.
I don't think that hinders a friendship. I don't know. I don't even know the purpose of the cup. Is it like we saying friendship is a good thing or a bad thing? Like, or we just
Our first talk.
Yeah,
well,
was it
I
just
don't
like-
think we were.
Was it just talking about friendship as well?
yeah, we were.
I think we were just chatting and discussing how we.
We were starting a friendship,
Oh,
blossoming,
Beautiful.
we'd already
Yeah.
started it.
and now we've pruned it.
And
left
cut
all
away
the
Yeah, I think we've kind of it's evolved. I think
Yeah.
we've become more comfortable with ourselves, with each other.
Yeah.
Conversation has loosened up.
Definitely.
A
and had to
lot,
tighten up.
and tightened
then-
up,
Yeah.
and then loosened.
And then loosened and tightened. And then changed and adapted.
And then we're also having conversations outside of these talks about the talks that we're going to do next. Kind of, it's like those. Like, how do you think those conversations
So we've had
Different.
different?
Yeah.
I know right now we're trying to like talk right in front of a mic, so like we're not going away. But like, do you think this is not like sort of not a barrier between our friendships? This microphone, this
Yeah.
process talking.
Is it a barrier?
Not a barrier, but it's like.
I don't even not notice the mics there half the time. No, I did at first. Like that's what with the loosening up thing. I just kind of got used to it, and because you have been absolute wizards with the old machinery. I have to like lean in and that.
The old
The old machinery, you know, the old techie deck. High techie deck.
You two as wizards is funny.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, like what is it? The oracles. You know, you get in the O2 shops and that way they got the. Is it the
Or
oracles?
the geniuses,
Yeah, the
the
geniuses.
gurus.
Yeah, the gurus. O2 gurus.
What were you going to say, Katie, about
I feel like the type of conversations we have round the mics are different to. I
What
mean,
we
not
have.
really different, but there's something like
I'd say they're probably more unpacked, and in-depth conversations.
when we were talking about professional, like the conversations. It's informal, but it's still professional. I wouldn't like.
what, because we have the microphone?
Yeah, because. You know, I
Ed
might
looks
think
like he
twice about.
strongly disagrees.
Well, actually, when I'm around and having a conversation with people in, say, like the pub or something like that, I'm still conscious about people listening.
Yeah.
Like
And people
other
hearing
people,
it.
or-
Yeah, other people around me, next table, whatever. And I'm always like, guys, like, can we move the topic? This is something for like sitting at home drinking a pint of gin and tonic, like.
Drinking a pint.
of gin and tonic.
That
Like-
is what I drank several of last night.
And she
So
falls into a crying fit.
I love the way you kind of like gagged a little bit and you were like,
But yeah, I'm
can we not gag into the mic?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm like conscious about people's sort of listening in
I think, no, I also am, but I'm more conscious about this.
about
Yeah.
this because this is going to be heard again and again
And again, and also, I don't know who's hearing this, where I have an awareness of who's around me in a pub, even if I'm like,
Even if
And
you don't
you-
know who they are.
yeah.
In a pub, you're more like here. Like obviously, we go off topic at times, and we bring in other stuff.
And also, in a pub, I'm not speaking to the other people.
Yeah.
They just happen to be listening, whereas
Yeah.
we are speaking to a wider.
But like in the pub, you would go even more off topic than.
Shout out Katie Ann Jackson.
Yes. Like we
Should
bring
we
in
address the gallery to give some context?
yeah. Carry
Sorry,
on.
what were you saying?
We would be like in a pub. We would feel less like when we go off topic that we have to bring it back. We
Yeah.
just go off topic, stay off topic.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on today because
Yeah.
it's
Right, but try and
Got a
keep
lot.
it. Okay.
See, so we're bringing it back. We wouldn't do
Yeah.
this in a pub. There's a lot going on, guys. Let's bring it back.
But in terms of how you actually feel that through this process, friendships, how have you kind of changed the way that you relate to these friendships? What do you think that this process has meant for you, Liv?
I think it has made us understand that a lot of the time we really don't mean what we say.
Yeah.
I think like that has been a big thing.
Like at first I didn't understand our disclaimer about even the individuals themselves, but now I get it.
But now I get it because like
It's in like the heat of the moment.
when
or
you're in a
like,
convo, you get into it and. Why is
or
it
you might
convo?
change your mind after.
When you're in a convo,
You nervy bee.
when we get nervy bee.
Yeah, because you've got to be willing to understand that people can change their minds about things. Like,
Yeah.
And sometimes
Even
they're
within
just
the same
asking you the tough
conversation.
questions.
Yeah, within
Sometimes in the same sentence.
Yeah, like that.
On
There was
the
that time that I
floor.
said something. Well, I can't remember what it was, and then you said something about what was it documentation.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, yeah. And then
Yeah,
my
yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing was completely wrong. Well,
Exactly.
not wrong, but
Well,
changed
you
my
just
mind
thought of it in a
completely.
different way, and then you had to go, oh well, I take back what I said, or like I'm thinking
Yeah.
about it in a different way.
So do you think that from the process, like, do you feel like now you feel like friendship is, or like you more actively would think of your friendships as a tool for learning? Maybe? Question mark? Not
'cause
a
I-
tool.
yeah.
I think that this is
But-
100% exactly that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're a tool.
I think it's made me realise that like I've kind of known it, but it's made me affirm my idea that a conversation can be a learning method.
Yeah.
And can definitely be something that I would class as research.
But I think that's specific to who you're having the conversation with. Like, I feel like this would be really different if it wasn't you guys.
But we've added
specifically.
people in.
I think all the conversations are important because it's good to have
Yeah.
a multitude of perspectives.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because it's like, I know you didn't come to the lecture this morning, but like in the lecture this morning. No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
What a way to call them out on it.
We've been called out publicly.
I was there.
Whoa.
Well, me and Kate were at the front recording, taking notes. It was great. No
Yeah, I've
offense.
recorded it, so
Yeah.
Was
It was
a
a
good
friend.
lecture?
Yeah, it was really good,
Was it
and it
sweet?
was literally solidifying everything that we've kind of done.
Yeah,
I was
every
like, oh my
topic we
gosh,
went
this is what we've been doing.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the topic?
the whole
of
like
lecture?
arts and experience pedagogies, or like they were talking about authorship, like
She was going
every-
through literally every single one of our.
It was almost like
conversations.
she'd been listening.
She'd been listening to it and then gone, drop some hints in.
Perhaps should have gone
And
with
the-
the
Yeah,
lecture.
maybe I should.
No, that was a
What was it
workshop.
about though,
Oh.
specifically?
We had a
Lecture
lecture with
with-
Yozan.
Oh, Yuzan.
Isan.
What was it about?
Who I am. She's my idol.
I
She's-
love
she's
such
great.
an
I
idol.
absolutely
Yeah.
love her.
She's very cool.
And
Okay.
That lecture was on participation. Which I think is quite interesting. That's why I recorded it, because I knew you'd
I
want.
just was
Well,
never going to
Kate
make
will
it.
go
was
to the
I?
front to go
So-
record it. I had to go.
Okay, that's a side note.
I feel like I've done a couple of side notes.
Okay, so okay, we've kind of had a bit of a think about friendship. I feel like we'll come back to that again because that's kind of the overarching theme of the bunker in a way. What about some of the other kind of
Was the
topics
next
that we've
week
had?
purpose of making?
I think so. I've written them down, but I don't think I've written them in the right order because
I've also written down in the order I think they came.
Okay, so what do you think it was the purpose of making?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like the process has very much changed your opinion on what the purpose of making is?
I think we were talking about whether it was for yourself or other people. Whereas I think the bunker has been kind of both, but it's been a lot for ourselves in terms of like just learning.
I think what it might be good as well, like I'm third year and you guys are in second year. I can't necessarily be marked on your part. Like if we collate this as a thing,
Yeah.
and then I put it to
Your
my
work.
submission, or at least my research or something like this, and then I get it looked at. Like, this is really interesting, Ed. Like, just solely looking at that, or is it like how does this fit within our?
Because I think we've all contributed, even people have guessed and come on, so it's not even like something that I've been thinking about this mark, like how it gets marked and stuff, because it is there's so many fingers in the pie,
Mhm.
Eddie Pie fingers.
Thank you for the shout out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can I just say Sophie Plate Spinner
I
is
knew
also
you
a
were going
thing?
to say that.
'Cause,
That's what Matthew Hearn said to me in my
Sophie
tutorial.
Plate Spinner.
It's like, you got a lot of plate spinning. And I was like, what does that mean?
So, but yeah, so the purpose of making how to go about this in a way to include you guys, but through our own individual practices, and vice versa. So, so how would Katie think about us four as part of the practice, and what she can get from it? So I think I like the conversation, that kind of making the work through collaboration, but bringing it back into something that we could each sometimes go away and do something reflecting on it, and then bring it back together.
Yeah.
So we could write essays on each topic, or we could write a zine. You could make
we could all go away and do our own response to this, bring them together, without saying what kind of response. It'd be interesting to see the varied things people might come up with, because I know
do an interpretive dance to this.
Well, that would be me. I feel like you would make something very like, I made a book and I'm Ed and I made a book.
I think this is, as well as being research though, we have been making. I think this is a form of making work, because I think there's the dialogue is a piece of work in itself. I just think because I was talking to someone the other day about it might have been you,
About not separating
the fact that the theory
yeah.
can be talked about and you can visualise everything, and you can have these conversations. You don't need the work to be present. If anything, the work complicates things in some degrees and makes the theory not streamlined. So the conversations are easier to be had without work being present. And I think this is, I don't know, it's because it's art, thinking about art as a philosophy and art as a purpose of dialogue. Because that's all you do really. You communicate visually, but then we've just communicated literally about topics. Don't know.
I agree.
So do I.
Is that so? You're you're making now, I always go back to you, Liv, because you're a sculptor.
I made a bench the other day.
Did you?
So,
yeah, well, with Sung Hoon, but it doesn't look like a bench. It also looks like a baby /
Another
cocoon
prop.
/ thing.
Is it from clay?
No.
What did you make it from?
Wood.
It's Hessian and plaster
Oh, completely.
and chicken wire, but don't tell anyone it's chicken wire.
So you couldn't sit on it then?
Wait,
No.
why not?
Don't
chicken
tell
wire?
anyone, but we'll just...
Because they hate
Just put
chicken
it all over the
wire.
world.
Everyone
You
hates
have
chicken
just
wire.
broadcast that it's chicken wire.
Yeah,
And now we've made a point of it.
And now about
Nobody's-
5 of us have said chicken wire.
but I feel like
Chicken wire.
is the person who hates chicken wire going listening.
Sung Hoon.
Who knows?
No,
No, you
Sung
made it
Hoon.
with Sung Hoon, didn't you?
Sung Hoon loves chicken
Sung
wire.
Hoon loves chicken wire. Chicken wire is literally essential to not making something really, really expensive.
Alright, yeah.
Welcome to
If
The
you-
Bunker Presents Chicken Wire.
Chicken wire
On
edition.
chicken wire. Our solution to
Yeah,
your
my
everyday problems.
question around it was, how has this affected your making in the studio?
I don't know
I
immediately.
know how it's affected mine.
So it's not affected yours?
No, I would definitely say it
No,
has.
you're saying it's not.
No, but I couldn't tell
know,
you
that's fine.
right now. Do you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what I mean? I feel like it's something that I need to go and reflect on.
Like you'll maybe see a strand about 3 weeks down the line. and
Yeah.
go, oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's a bench which you can sit at and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. You
It's
can't
got
sell it
his
though.
opinion on how it's impacted.
Chicken wire. Just thought I'd say
How
it
do
again.
you, when you said you have to go away and reflect on that, do you have any specific strategies that you use for your kind of helping you reflect? Do you have reflective strategies?
I'll probably have to. I'll probably have to write it down, and I think that's why it's so important that we're doing something with Gail after this to just kind of reflect collectively. Just because I think me, especially when I'm in the moment having like a conversation, it takes me quite a while to think about it. I don't know, and because I feel like I generally take quite a while to produce work, to think about this and then produce work kind of with this in mind is something I definitely want to do, but it's just going to take me a bit of time.
Yeah.
But maybe for you guys it's a bit different.
Well, Kate, you seem to think.
Well, no,
what
it
were
was
you
just
gonna
because
say?
so you know when you're talking about my individual practice and then our practice, like working on like Betty and the Rat together. When I've been thinking out, so I've been like working on my individual work, but I've been thinking about it more like who can I work with on this, because I feel like the whole process of working with more people is just really beneficial. So like, I don't know, with Ed's box or something, like I'm like, oh, what can I make of it, like, and then that's made me like want to make different work to like, but then what am I doing with Ria, or like what am I going to do with, I don't know.
I feel like you've opened yourself up to more collaborative projects then.
Yeah, because I think before I thought my individual practice had to be individual, but I think you can still make your own work with another person, but like make it work with somebody else, or like within their practice, or I don't know. Like, I think before I thought it had to be very much like collaborate, because Betty and the Rat is equal, and obviously collaborations are equal, but I didn't really have my like role as like my individual practice, like as in like sound came into that. I don't think it really did, which I'd quite like, because I like having the two things. But now I'm thinking, how can I work with sound with other people?
Yeah. I think as an experience, it opens you up to the fact that collaboration really doesn't have to just be with one particular collaborator. You can have lots of different collaborators, and you can work with them at different times for different things.
So could this like segue, I know we're going to jump, but segue into the local cultures kind of area that we were talking about a few weeks ago, where we've worked with Incubate printmaking. Experimental print.
Experimental.
Shout out to Nick from Incubate. And working with them on like, we've got t-shirts made, and we worked with people in third year who made our badges, and even though these things are physical things you can see, and we're a radio or like broadcasting, doesn't really make sense.
But we're open to the gallery.
But we're open to the gallery.
Everyone loved the badges, and everyone was asking if they could buy a t-shirt, and we were like, oh, we don't actually have any spares, but interesting that everyone wants a physical object.
So do you feel like the bunkers helped us engage with other people?
Dematerialisation of the object, guys.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not that dematerialisation. This benefits made me want to make less work, like less physical stuff. It just makes me not want to bother doing it. Like not in the sense.
But work with people.
Yeah.
Like around, so in communities.
Yeah, and just like talk.
To create different work.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like the conversations. Probably just quite literally, I like the conversations.
Situating your work less as objects, or like art objects, artworks, specifically tangible things, and more as like concepts.
You guys should have been at the lecture this morning. This is legit it.
We are just like,
it was. She was
you're
talking about
basically
how
at the lecture right now.
Yeah, you're at it right now.
I really wish I was there, but
she was talking about working, taking yourself, the artist, away from that role, and then. Well, I can't.
She was talking about like removing like the artist's hand and things like that, which I don't think we're not really doing, because it's our voices. Our voices are so present.
But making it less about a physical like remnant, but more about
the experience.
Yeah, and connecting with others.
Yeah.
What was the quote?
Connecting.
It said
there was a lot of quotes.
Yeah, there was a really good quote. I think I wrote it down. I took my bag.
No, I didn't.
So I keep thinking about this idea.
It did me a favour and took my bag.
Got
you. Was that Charlie?
I just keep thinking about this, like using it as creating it as an ecosystem. So if people and making it so that if people want to make physical work, then they can. But like using this like backward and forth with other people to like keep it bubbling, so that people can. It is like a wide thing for people to be creative, rather than feel like you need to make. Because I still like to make like physical work, but I like to draw and stuff. But I think I'd probably prefer doing that outside of uni.
I did a good workshop with Sue and Kate the other day for the project week for the candidates that were coming here, and it was like working with someone opposite you and just drawing them like with a paper plate on your head, but drawing on the paper plate, and it was just like that. You kind of like stood there like just engaging with them, And it's like being, not the solitary artist and being alone,
Yeah.
like kind of being there next to people.
It's boring, man, let's be honest, being on your own.
The white wall, going staring at the white wall.
I'm going to make something amazing.
I'm genius.
Yeah.
I'm tortured genius.
Yeah, stabbing yourself in the eye with pencils. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe a bit
That point we just touched upon was reminding me a lot of when you were saying about removing the hand of the artist, but it was making me think about because we went to some talks and workshops yesterday in the gallery called Crazy in Love, which Gail was running, and we were talking about how often in curation it's kind of Gail was kind of talking about how like curators often try and frame or try and remove like evidence of themselves to kind of make the space seem like it's a neutral space, but that it's not, because even if your hand isn't obviously there, it's still there.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about that when you were saying about trying to remove the artist's hand, because even if you do that, like that doesn't mean that the artist.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that's what we've done here, though.
No.
I think we completely haven't. Because,
Oh no, I was just thinking about what you were saying about
but
the
I
lecture.
think we're putting it on like a level where, the guests that come on, we see them as, just as much a part of the bunker as we are.
But we haven't like removed our hand because we've told them what the show is and what it's about. We've kind of invited them on the basis.
Specific
Do you know what I mean?
shows,
Like
yeah.
it's not neutral.
Yeah.
It's very much like framed in a way that definitely like the shows aren't totally in our control. We've seen that from our experiences, but at the same time,
we do.
We've had a hand in.
So would be to completely remove our hand would be us not even being here. And
That
the guests
wouldn't even
would be-
completely
and then-
remove our hand though,
So
because
is
we'd
this
have
what
still
Gail was talking
facilitated
about?
an event
Yeah.
and
So-
invited people to come.
I
to
think
it.
what we're trying to say is that's really difficult.
Yeah, so it's
Well,
what-
no, I think because what we kind of talked about yesterday is that you can never do that.
Yeah,
Are you
so-
trying to
so
say
yeah,
kind of-
yeah.
Ed's getting angry because no one will let him talk? Go on, Ed.
So you were talking to Gail about this yesterday. So she was saying that like, it's hard to remove the hand. So
No, it was
is
it was less
No.
about it being hard to remove the hand. It was more about the fact that you can't remove the hand, so it's important to acknowledge that you can't.
Yeah.
And-
so in this show, can you see Gail's hand?
Yes.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
Charlie.
Yeah.
Well, this was an interesting.
I'm just thinking
point.
for the listeners, like what
So
Yeah.
I think the people attending the workshop had like different opinions on how obvious Gail's kind of voice was in the space. So like Charlie, for example.
That's just, I think I was, like, her presence is quite literally here, because she's with the table that she's got all of her research stuff and the stuff that's on the wall, and that kind of has this,
the table's Catherine Elkins.
but she's got the stuff on top, is like, and I was thinking, is she like, because she was on about using that to pull people together and have conversations with each other, but if you removed Gail's work, would the connections with all the other work still be there?
Well, it's not really. It's not Gail's work in the sense of an artwork, though. It's kind of evidence of her. And to me, I think that her hand or voice is still quite like touch in the space, because I think that actually to me, the table where she's got her research is operating as her acknowledgement of the fact that the space isn't neutral and that the space is shaped by the curator's interests and the curator's own research and the curator's own practice of curation as a creative practice.
Yeah.
So I feel like it is reasonably light touch. Yeah.
I think she probably acknowledged that she can never be fully removed, so
No.
she just, you may as well, rather than try and pretend, just,
Yeah.
it's a nice, for me it's a really nice addition as well. I think.
I think it brings kind of it together quite well, and it sort of helps to frame why other things are in the space.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So what was the topic after the purpose of making?
I was just going to say it's one thing, it's kind of like what Robin was saying the other week, that she's finding that quite hard to remove her hand from Red Exhibition, and that she's finding that people are still kind of looking to her, because I know that I did it when we were having a meeting, that I was looking at her for kind of direction, just because of the kind of like remnants like
Yeah.
the kind of exhibitions that you leave behind the canvas and the or like what you've created. I don't know, it's hard especially if you know the person that's kind of made it. You can't help but not think who like how they were influenced in this. So like Gail's friends coming to this exhibition know that she did it, but there's obviously other people. Do you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think in this, yeah, it does. But I think in this case, it's more about making that, like, I don't know, your position as a curator and the choices, because the, like, deliberate choices, everything you do. So just not trying to hide that and not, and, like, acknowledging that, like, I don't
Like
know.
they are choices.
They
they're
are
not
choices,
neutral.
and yeah, in like acknowledging that like you might not have represented like I don't know everyone you wanted to, but you really like self-reflecting in that you're aware that that has happened, but that's just
Why
the
do
way
you
it
keep
is.
looking
I
at
keep
that?
looking at that table about the like male and female, and like I don't know, because I just because obviously this was like it's like a feminist methodology.
Using
I don't know,
like a feminist form of
yeah.
curation.
So then obviously I'm looking at the male and female table because it's like very deliberately like quite equal, but obviously you can't.
But then, like Gail said yesterday, even though those numbers look equal, you have to acknowledge that, like she was saying, like for example, Neuschloss
Yeah. And
as a
those
group
are
of academics is
yeah.
very male heavy.
Yeah.
And so the overall contributors to the exhibition is quite equal. But if we like look at who those contributors are and then look at within that.
Yeah.
So maybe kind of from a point of like the more well-established people that are on this
Yeah.
tend to be male. But like I think that's something Gail is very good at acknowledging. I think it's just good to like what we do, like how I think we've tried to varied amounts of success or not success to acknowledge that when we're talking we're only talking from our experiences and it's our opinions, and especially when we talk about the course that we're very much talking about our experience of the course, and we can't like frame it as like everyone who does this degree's experience because it's not.
Because yeah.
Pedal doggies.
Pedal
That's
doggies?
the next one, yeah.
So I like dogs. Do you like dogs?
Do you like dogs?
So yeah, what you were saying then leads into sort of the pedal doggies. We are talking about pedagogies.
No, we're not. We're talking about pedal doggies.
Yeah, it's about that kind of experience and learn. Well, I think with pedagogies, how we learn together
Yeah.
through like these different. It was the worst. No, it's a book. We've like touched on the topics of learning.
Yeah.
Like, Charlie, you don't like the
And especially like
word pedagogies.
It's that and facilitation now.
Oh, I love facilitation.
The two words have just gone morphed. But no, with pedal doggies, I think it's reaffirmed my idea that there is so much subjectivity in it. Not everything that we do, and it just makes me think more and more about there needs to be a shift in the way that courses get taught, especially with art. Art courses, I think they definitely need to have a. That's
what was
my
the name
opinion,
of
anyway.
the playlist? Not the playlist. Mixtape. Something shift.
Demand perspective shift.
There needs to be a demand perspective shift in the way that people view art, the way people teach it.
What kind of impact do you think the Bunkers had on maybe our university right now?
Oh, that's a big one. I don't know.
Because we've been quite present through Kaggle. Well, sorry, no, we've not. Sophie has. And we, as a
Overexposed announcer.
as a group, we've been on the tables in Kaggle. No,
Oh, sorry, what? Has been dancing on the table.
Classic Ed, always danced on the table.
Have anyone else other than the arts though? Anyone else other than the arts noticed this?
What, that Ed
That's
starts
a
on the
good
table?
point.
Like, to have an impact on the university, to make the university shift its thinking towards the art
But-
program, it would have to You have to be recognised beyond the students.
I think this would work as a case study, though.
Yeah.
It would work like I think this whole exhibition can work as a case study. This is I was talking to Tracy, who works on at the gallery desk, and she was saying that this is like pulled in a lot more numbers than most. It's an engaging. It's what we've been saying about the sort of gallery as a research. Well, I think this is the thing. I think on Gallery North website it does say that is a research tool. Gallery North.
Yeah, because Gail made a good point yesterday in that thing. She said that we pay for the university, we pay for the facilities, and like when it comes back onto the question of like using the gallery as a research tool,
Well,
and
I
other
think
things as a research tool, like there is limitations.
Yeah, it's like what we said in, you know, the thing I think was written on the wall about how like the galleries, like it's called the university gallery, but none of the students, like it's not used as like a tool for
Definitely not
active learning.
undergraduate active learning.
No.
Yeah.
Although maybe this exhibition might have changed that. Not necessarily just the bunker, but
Just the whole consideration of
how comfortable people have been. And I think definitely for myself, like this is by far the most I've ever been in the gallery.
Yes,
Yeah.
And people who've been listening to us as well, like maybe have become more comfortable with being in the gallery.
yeah.
I was thinking when I was coming through the door today, I was like, bloody hell, I'm always in this gallery.
Yeah.
Mm.
Always.
Did you know there was a Gallery North established in 1965 on contemporary art in a variety of disciplines, including painting, drawing, printing, ceramics, sculpture, digital art, and film, and it's in New York.
Ooh.
Oh, hello.
I have
Are we
this-
being invited there
I have
next?
this-
That's where we're broadcasting from, guys.
I have this,
Bunker on tour.
I have this weird niggling feeling. The fact that the undergrads don't get to use these facilities is to a certain degree is a status thing. It's kind of like just to cover the status of like what's going on at the moment in time. Like say for example, like not, people aren't as well polished as what university would like them to be, so that can't be.
Oh
shown.
yeah, I think that's very much something we touched on in that discussion on pedagogies. I was about to say pedagogies, because we were kind of talking about the fact that because this is a very public-facing thing,
Yeah.
that it really isn't used for undergraduate shows, or I mean obviously it's used for the degree show, but that is a polished
Yeah.
to some extent thing, and
yeah.
there's always politics over whose work is shown in Gallery
Yeah.
North.
Which to agree, then people that to a degree that must mean that people have an idea of what is good and what is bad. Then even though when we were talking about the purpose of making and having no idea of good and bad, they're obviously the people that decide what goes where and what happens where.
Or like what it's not even what's good or bad necessarily, it's like what's aesthetic, what fits
Correct.
the purpose that the university sees the gallery as fulfilling.
What fits the current model of what is.
Yeah, like because I suppose because of the fact that further education, like tertiary level education, is a commodity now because we have tuition fees. I think there's a lot of kind of focus on like how the university like markets itself, and this is a tool of its marketing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What do you think about the new Northumbria marketing thing?
Oh yeah, so the university has just changed their entire logo and made it into like a coat of arms, a crest,
Yeah.
whatever it's called. I feel like they're just trying to make themselves seem like a more of a fancy uni by doing that, aren't
Yeah,
they?
like red brick.
Yeah.
I always think that with a crest, it's a really traditionally like.
It's really traditional, which
Yeah.
I don't think.
Why would you
Why is that
make
an
a
ad-
tradition?
Why? Yeah. Why? I don't get why like coat of arms is like so.
Prestigious.
You know,
Well, it's just really admirable, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's like, oh, that looks
Well,
really.
it's a cool
That looks really
one.
pop.
oh, this must be a really well-established
Yeah.
historical
For me, a lot of the
university.
time, coat of arms
Why
really
is it bad
repulse
to be
me.
like modern?
Yeah.
Can I read something from the new Northumbria website? So Gallery North, complementary to the prestigious University Gallery, which obviously doesn't exist anymore. Gallery North's specific brief relates to the distinctive needs of the Department of the Arts, providing a quality learning experience, dynamic research environment, and professional exhibition space. The gallery also has a smaller dedicated experimental space. The Gallery North projects space for smaller and shorter exhibitions.
Mm-hmm.
But
Is that
so
what
it says here the
Why is it
distinctive needs.
Smaller
of the,
and shorter.
An experiment, like
It's just a project space.
yeah.
Smaller and shorter exhibitions.
Yeah.
That's a funny choice of words.
We don't even.
Well, it is a smaller space.
Oh, I thought you meant smaller works. I was like, oh, that's
People don't put
interesting.
exhibitions in there though.
No, they
People
don't.
test
They
work.
do.
Not
Very
really.
At the beginning of this
Very, very
s-
few.
this year, the 2 print fellowships
That's true.
Yeah.
fellows
Yeah, but
did a show.
It's
You've
not-
got your shows, which are public, starting next Thursday.
We have the option to if we wanted to
What?
put an exhibition on.
Yeah,
It's all- it's
but I
not-
think
It's not.
the Gallery North bit, where it's like,
I still feel like it stigmatises people in the project space as not being professional enough. I feel like it puts people in, separates the two off, because the fact that students, undergrads especially, can't use this.
and with Workplace saying that they, with yesterday's talk about how they see project spaces and gallery spaces and stuff.
that was really interesting talk.
Mm.
Do you want to explain a bit in case any listeners weren't there what it was?
No, not really.
They'll summarise.
No, you
Go
go.
ahead. Well, we had a Kaggle, which is our guest lecturer, with Paul Moss, who's one of the directors of Workplace Gallery, and it was just a really interesting kind of insight into what it's like running a gallery, and sort of, I think he was very open, very honest with us about the different challenges and tensions and like ethical dilemmas that can present.
Yeah.
It was really, really interesting.
And the whole of conforming to an art world with like white-walled gallery. What Georgia?
Using like the white cube conventions.
Georgia picked up something quite nicely in the question at the end, which was about. Do you think that? Well, is it something like? Do you think the art has to be seen on a white wall to be seen as something in the art world? And then, who was it saying? There are millions of art worlds. Who was it? Was this in that talk?
I can't remember.
Or did I read this afterwards? No, I was talking to someone about it. Basically, like, you're not in a specific art world, you're in one of the
Yeah.
art worlds, and it's where you locate
Read Art Worlds by Howard Becker, people.
Howard Becker.
Sociologist.
Will do.
Good book.
But it's like there's this art world convention that obviously it's probably a massive Venn diagram kind of deal, but and they all cross over. But yeah, it's this white walled aesthetic, and if we're now relating it to project spaces and stuff, like going over there, and it's like, oh well, that one's not really sort of.
Well, I think we all acknowledge that like white cubes don't need to be the only way we show work, but I think I definitely agreed to some extent with what Paul was saying, because I think that there is a value in using the language and the sort of conventions of those art worlds in order to get your work perhaps recognised, because ultimately whatever you think, you do need to live
Present
and
and-
have
yeah.
some money.
I like what you were
And
saying.
kind of conform to that, the white cube. You just, it's just something you sometimes just have to do.
I like what you said about
Burns my spine though. I know that. I know in my
But
head.
some people really, really like.
Yeah.
Sometimes people's work really just work that way, and
It's
like
just a tool for
it's
framing,
just
isn't
it's
it?
a framing tool. It's all about the way that you present your
It's
work,
like-
and for some people that's a really good tool, and that's
It's like when we were talking about plinth, and there's this like stigma of using
Yeah.
plinth. I think that's becoming a thing with the white cube in a gallery space.
yeah.
But like, I think this exhibition shows that it doesn't necessarily have to be like there's nothing on the wall. Like, I don't know.
Well, this space is weird.
This because
It's kind
everything's
of
brought into the centre.
This space is weird because it, to some extent, tries to use white cube conventions, but it also
It was
doesn't
repurposed
achieve
shop.
it well in
Yeah,
some ways.
it
Like
also
the
It
floor-
challenges
it
them,
also
I think.
can't.
I don't know if it challenged.
I think it unintentionally challenges.
Yeah, I think it's through trying to kind of cheapskate.
Yeah.
Like, the floor, like the floor's not a concrete floor, which is kind of, or a wooden floor.
And it rolls up the walls.
Yeah, which is really.
Like a swimming bath.
Yeah, I
is,
used to
it's
kind
like
of
a
swim
swimming
around.
bath.
It's a very squeaky floor. I've noticed.
And there's a lot of window, which actually is maybe somewhat unusual for a...
Yeah,
I quite like it.
but I really like it.
Well, it's like Susie Green was saying. She was saying that when she did that exhibition,
Yeah, was it in Birmingham, I think?
Yeah, Birmingham, yeah. She, 2 of the walls were completely windows, which changed her work, which I think is really nice. So I think that this gallery unintentionally has that aesthetic, which makes you rethink your work. It's just about framing, like you said.
How do you think that the windows has actually changed our work as the bunker?
Well, our initial idea was to be in a black box.
Yes, it
and
was.
no one would see us. No one would be knowing that we were doing it sort
How
of
do we
live.
feel about?
But now we're outside and we're facing a massive window. Well,
And we've been waving
Katie
at
and I
people.
are I'm constantly looking
Yeah.
out there.
People still don't notice we're in here though a lot of the time, unless it's people in our cars.
Do you feel like that makes us more publicly engaged? The fact that we're actually A, visible because we're not in a big black box, but B, very visible because we're in like this very like shop fronty kind of gallery with a massive window where you look in and
We're kind of taking ownership, aren't we? Through no fault of our own. Because we were gonna, well, obviously a lot of what we spoke about when we first decided to create this was the fact that the student body wasn't being represented in the gallery, but
Yeah.
like we can be seen now. And I think before we were kind of playing on that idea. I don't know,
of having a voice in the gallery.
Yeah,
but
voice
not
only.
being there.
Yeah,
But now we are both.
we're praised.
We are.
So praised.
interesting though, isn't it?
It is interesting. And that was something that happened because we couldn't be not seen.
Couldn't not be seen.
Couldn't not be seen.
How not? to be
However,
seen?
sadly, I still have this niggling feeling that for some reason, once this exhibition is finished, it's going to go back and the students still will not have a place in this.
Well, what can we do to?
Split.
How can we be a part
Well,
of?
we were talking
that?
about this. What actually stops students from being in this space?
Yeah.
We were talking about, did students actually propose?
Well, I think.
No.
Well, I don't know. It's all programmed quite far in advance,
Yeah.
and obviously with our changing practices and the fact that we could turn a corner like
Yeah.
really quickly, then, and it's a big space. We, as the degree show, the third years do get to propose, and we've got 2.5 weeks from now to make this decision where we want to be. But this becomes more, when you're up on different floors or in the annex, you essentially, I know it shouldn't be like this, but you're essentially curating a show for yourself in your own space.
Yeah.
But within this space, because it's, even though the degree show is part, this is the degree show, it's just this kind of space is seen to be more of, it's a collaborative show.
Yeah.
So you're only allowed, say, if you do painting, 1 or 2. And it's that kind of, you have to work together as a group. I would say that there's,
Collaborative curation.
yeah, I think, but I mean, I would be like taking that kind of methodology up to wherever I go and say, let's work together. You're interested in this, you're interested in this. I don't want that, like, this wall to be a barrier between our two.
Like, this is my work, this is your work, this is
Yeah.
Exactly, they're like bays, and you kind of
Yeah, I like
shuffle around and you kind of go, ooh, cool, cool.
I like it when work integrates and there's someone's here but it's the same person's over there and like kind of pulls and like works as this like
Yeah.
I think what was quite nice when we did the third year shows was because me, Sophie and Katie were all in the annex.
Oh,
when
yeah.
Julia was, so we helped Julia, whose work was like sculptural based. She kind of had an idea for the space, but we had like us helping her. We had quite a lot of input and kind of,
Yeah.
which was really, well, it was really fun. But she ended up having on the like balcony of the mezzanine had those kind of heads, and then from I forgot his name. It was
Joe.
kind of Joe's space. You
Yeah.
could see them, and it was just
Yeah.
like this idea that unintentionally they kind of did collaborate. And I think that because of the space in the annex, it kind of does work like that. But whereas fourth floor, maybe it does.
Is a lot more.
Is a lot
Lots
more
of
Really
doors.
hard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little spaces.
Yeah.
But I think, like, do you know what Sophie said was like, how can we? Charlie said after this show, it's going to go back to what it was, and then you said, how can we change that? And it's about kind of making your shows really good for second year thematics, and then like just being like, well, if you wanted to have a bigger space, then the programming could be the quick turnaround of somewhere else, and then it's about us being as active and owning our course as much as possible, taking control of the project space. 204's project space is now bigger than the Squires Annex.
Is that the
project
one
space
we used
for the Red exhibition?
Yeah.
And it's just that kind of, why not do your exhibitions there? These are all spaces that you can use, and it's, or maybe using all project spaces for these things all at once. I know some of us, I can't remember who was talking about doing that, but
Me.
was it you, like
With
using,
Robin.
Yeah, using every project space at exactly the same time and just
Yeah.
saying, there you go.
Yeah, I was thinking about when we did, if we were going to do house exhibitions, a way that you could like have every house active at all at the same time, so you have to follow maps and stuff. And
More like AV Festival, which should have been in here, I think, after this show.
That one they do in Borough, the Paul Smith, is it Paul?
Berwick.
No.
Berwick Film Festival.
No, Paul guy that's doing Paul. I don't know.
Merrick.
No. The one that, the
Stewart.
thing is Paul Stewart. The one that's he's doing that thing in Borough where it's in loads of different places all over.
Oh yeah, that was Paul Stewart.
Yeah.
Oh, what was the exhibitions?
Middlesbrough
Art in Houses.
Art houses.
Art houses. Art houses.
Was that in
Um,
Whitley Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a street.
Yeah.
And you, who was it that was? Gail was cooking food in one of their houses, but obviously it's not her house and it's not her kitchen. It's just that kind of like. You could go to the next house. It's kind of like.
Where's this?
Whitley Bay. I think, did it start last year or did it start 2 years ago?
That sounds amazing.
And like, I think it says street. There's a street in my village that always puts on like masses and masses of Christmas decorations, and it's all for charity. But like, they get generators in on the end of the street and put stuff up. But it's like that community coming together to generate something like art houses.
Yeah. Some cul-de-sacs from like that I've heard of around near where some of my family lives. They like come together and have like massive street parties and stuff. Like the whole street, because it's obviously blocked off the end. The whole street just have this like in the road, because if everyone's there, no one's going to be coming in and out. So they just use the whole road as like, and everyone comes out onto the street. They get like barbecues out and that.
See, it's so weird at home. There's in Nottingham, there's a really nice estate near town centre. It's called the Park, and every year they host like garden parties. So you all get to go into each other's gardens, and everyone gets to like show off their like amazing houses and amazing gardens.
What's this called?
Oh, it's called something, but it's really, really like
In Nottingham? Yeah, I think my mum went to it.
really
Yeah.
like people won't open up the houses, but will go just to look at these incredible houses, and everyone's just like lavishing and all of these. Like my mum has been a couple of times, but it's just funny, that idea that it's so different, but it's the same concept.
Yeah, they do it in this place.
'Cause they're not really-
They all around each other's gardens and that, and like look at each other's like clever gardening techniques.
But they say they advertise it as the gardens, but you usually have to travel through the house to get to the gardens, and then they'll like.
Can we take that and turn it into like a gallery? Is that what? No, wait. Is that what gallery previews are? Like
What,
just
every-
walking around going, look at my gallery.
Yeah.
It is,
Like,
yeah.
Look at my amazing gallery.
I'm-
My gallery is bigger than yours.
Giving up free wine. Oh, well, that's quite interesting. Well, what were we on the topic of then?
We were on pedagogies. We didn't actually say putting your work out there, but that's what we've.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
well, no, okay.
That's
so putting
what
your
we
work
talked
out there, how have we put this work out there?
Use the
YouTube.
internet, man.
Yeah. But through Instagram, we slowed down on the Instagram front.
I think we have, yeah. I've noticed that.
We've not really done, other than these slips that we've kind of used to ask questions every week in the guest lecture program, we haven't had posters. Well, we had one right at the beginning just saying tune in every Thursday to Friday. But we haven't had posters, we haven't done any print format, and we haven't done...
Because
No emails.
yeah,
or
but
anything.
there was the overall poster for a seat at the table. So then, would we necessarily advertise like beyond that?
But if we were going beyond that as the bunker...
No, as the bunker, but I feel like when we are the bunker and we're doing work now, but we are part of this exhibition, so I think we
But
just...
is there a poster for Crazy in Love?
No.
As part of Project Week, sorry.
I don't know. I don't
No,
think
it's
so.
just-
Yeah.
Is
There
it?
was a
Yeah.
separate poster.
Oh,
It had, well, because it was a Project Week workshop.
Mhm.
It was about the workshop, not about the talk, though, the poster. It was just one of the posters that Charles had made for everything.
no, because I'm just thinking like obviously Olivia Turner's work or
Comes under the banner of.
it's
A Seat at the
like
Table.
all the work in this show, like Neuschlosser's contribution or like none of them are advertising come to Neuschloss because it's like this idea of like collective, like putting all these things into one.
Mhm.
So I would think it would be kind of strange if we were to advertise the bunker like beyond, you know, the seat at the table is.
Yeah,
I know
I
I understood why we did the slips at the beginning of the very beginning because we needed to get the URL out there so
Yeah.
that people could actually listen. I think that was like fair enough, but I don't know.
Still got a lot of
I
that,
wouldn't
so-
really want to make a poster because I feel like that would, you know,
What, sorry?
position-
Undermine or. Like,
yeah, like position us like on a different. Like, why would we? I don't know. I don't know
transcend-
how.
I think you
Why
could
would we
have a
transcend the
poster.
exhibition?
I think you could have a poster because
No, I
you're
think we
advertising
could.
like specific events within the exhibition. These are,
Where's
I
the
kind of see each
Yeah,
broadcast
yeah.
as an event.
Yeah,
in
I
a
guess
way.
it is.
Yeah, as long as you accredit the exhibition, you know.
Yeah, but then I think well that information is on a table on the gallery wall. I don't think it's. I don't know. I guess.
So how?
I just feel like we're very
Yeah,
much
but
just.
the information's on the wall in here, but that's only if you come in here. If you don't come into the gallery, you don't know. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so then should we not just advertise the whole the exhibition as a whole? Come to the exhibition rather than come to the bunker. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I would have done something like, I'd just be saying if you want to tune in to us, the bunker, which is a part of the A Seat at the Table exhibition at Gallery North, probably.
I think the events that happen in the exhibition are an interesting pulling component to get people to come.
Yeah.
I think that's like, they're not just, yeah, because then there'd be no point in, I don't know, then how would we view ourselves? Like, I don't know, it's a weird thing to do. I don't know.
Well, we reached as far as York, that we know of.
Because do we-
And we had surveys done in London, so we kind of got the topics that we wanted to talk about out there and like down to. Sorry, okay.
I'm just thinking, how do we think the bunker exists outside of if we're talking about this as an event, the specific event
Yep.
itself? Like the table is still here when we're not here. The information is still on the table. You've got notes and things. Like, what do we think about that? Is that just as much as, you know?
A
Or
resource.
is the bunker like this happening now? And only
Only these
exists
2
within.
hours.
Yeah, or is the bunker just the idea of like conversation?
Yeah, I think it's because
It's
I don't
like-
think the bunker's like us or just this thing. I think it's just the idea that you can pull together.
I
people
think
for
it.
conversation.
Yeah, and I also think it's the idea of pulling together a topic and then divulging into that in this context.
Well, the bunker is a
'Cause it's quite
small,
s-
confined space where you kind of like can't really get out of for a while, and it's just like
It's
you've got to have this
project
conversation.
space.
Gallery North project spaces, and you've got to like sit there and you kind of got just talk. Really, there's not much down there that you can really do.
Art as a
Yeah.
bunker.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that kind of ethos around conversation is. So I think this was the table was the object
Yeah.
that we come to.
Yeah.
This wasn't meant to be in here, was it? So would that have changed it? Because we wouldn't have had a.
But the
physical-
object would have still been in there.
Yeah.
We
But
would
nobody
still
would
have
have known.
had
Yeah.
something. Or
Nobody
is the
spoke
microphone the
about it.
object?
Everything has its contribution to it, doesn't it? At this moment, to be present within the space. But then when you remove it, the idea of the bunker is just a concept for bringing conversations together.
Well, I'm not sure because I think the bunker is a collective, not a concept. To me.
Mhm.
And the collective exists for the idea of bringing people together and facilitating conversation.
Mhm.
But I don't know, for me, I've always thought of it more as a collective thing
Mhm.
rather than I don't know.
So like the idea we remade it.
Not that it has to be very much about like us in particular, but to me it operates as a collective.
Yeah.
So it's about making work together, making decisions together.
You couldn't do it on your own.
Yeah, and how we can.
What do you think?
I don't
Monologues.
know. I don't know.
Well, do you know what I mean? Like, it's about like how
Yeah,
we
definitely.
can facilitate peer-to-peer learning,
Mm-hmm.
how we can, yeah, like different things that we want to do, because this broadcast or these series of broadcasts is just one thing that Bunker might do, and that's I think why I see it as, because perhaps not necessarily everything we do will be as directly about conversation. Like if we're talking about house exhibitions,
I was thinking
that's
about
not.
There's still a conversation between work. There's a dialogue between work, and I get what you're saying about being a collective, but because obviously we pull other people and the people listen and they contribute to the conversation as well. That's why I think the idea you just view it as a concept, because it is just about pulling these things together and pulling a multitude of things into one area to have a conversation about a certain thing at a certain point.
So you could say that it was the bunker could be as an experience.
Ooh.
So it is an experience, because that goes on to our sixth episode, which was art as an experience, and we didn't we did broadcast this one, but we just didn't keep it online because it was about being praised and present.
Praise
We're making
yourself.
praise a thing.
Me and Kate have already made a priest a thing.
We're making it more of a thing.
Priest is
Priest is
a Betty in the Rat
Yeah,
coined.
yes.
Betty
And
the Rat.
the
Oh,
fact that-
priest. Priest is
shit.
Betty
And the
the
fact
Rat.
that other people are
Ownership, that's
using
ownership.
it makes it a bigger thing.
Yeah, we've started a movement. Fetch is happening.
So the bunker is an experience,
Yeah, maybe it is an experience.
and it's about us
But
coming together collectively
Yeah.
and concept.
I think
Actually-
it's both. It's just that
Okay.
in my mind, I frame it as like the bunker equals a collective of people who come together to think about how they can facilitate conversation and kind of like collaboration, peer-to-peer learning, and different opportunities
Yeah.
for a wider group of people, not just ourselves.
Yeah.
But it starts with us because
The circle of trust.
but we could bring more people in. But like we did bring people into our discussions, but they don't come to our meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, can the people who the core team, can they ever shift and change like that?
Yeah.
So we could just pass on, like.
Yeah, I got kicked off
I
at the
think-
beginning of this broadcast. Malachi took my
We
place.
just go like, oh,
Yeah,
We
you
let you
came
back
back.
say
in.
when we
Regret.
say obviously when you leave at the
Yeah.
end of this year and then we leave, what do we do? Does it,
But,
does
but
it still
I
live
think
within,
It's not actually
I think
leaving.
this continues. I don't
does it still
know.
live within the union? If so, do we just
Oh, that's
Or
a good.
does
That's
it-
a good
That's
one.
a-
Or does it
interesting.
travel with us?
do we just find a few people that are interested?
So is
within-
it
Yeah, I
to
like
do
this.
with the location? Is it very much born out of you being a student here, or is it about us as people?
I think it was because we've done a lot of things, which especially with the local culture and being a student, and then a lot of it's come back to our experience in university and how we facilitate ourselves. So I think it's important to like not lose root of that and let it sit within this because it is because now it has a platform within the art world in Newcastle. It has been legitimised and people are aware of it all over the place in Newcastle. It doesn't just exist inside the uni. That gives students a platform for them to do something which they wouldn't normally have. That's where I like to. I think it's because of the opportunity we've been given. It's give the bunker in a sense give student voice a platform in.
So, but then, so are you seeing that as something that you can only be a part of when you are a student? Would we, when we leave, do we move on or do we do something else? And
Yeah.
does it become something that other students can kind of appropriate or kind of take ownership of?
I think that they definitely could take ownership. Well, not necessarily ownership, but utilise it as a. Because I was thinking about is the bunker by it being just a concept and people can just use it as a platform to get their voice out there or get other so we've used it as a way to get our voice out there to a certain degree and other people's that have come on, and then when we move on just use the bunker as just as its own little entity and people just pick it up like a ball, you know, like the talkie bear.
Yeah.
The bunker is a talkie bear.
I was just thinking actually, like we've had students for every guest. Was Donnie a student? Well, everyone's a student that we've asked. PhD,
Yeah.
master's student, and there's Gail now walking past.
Here she comes.
She's not even listening, so we can say whatever we want about the exhibition. But yeah, we've used students, and it's about like, yeah, what would we feel about because I had a conversation with my uncle and he was talking about some great stuff and I was like, you should have come to the bunker. But he wanted to stay in the pub for a bit. But it's like that different industry slant and the idea that maybe that's something that we can look at in the future, is how we can, because we're very art-centric through the conversations and through our lives. That's the position we find ourselves in. But if we had these conversations, including an owner of a bank,
I would quite,
I don't know,
someone who does business, I know someone who does science. I quite like that idea of like pulling together different disciplines and stuff.
I mean, yeah, we kind of went with it with music and with Donny, and we did journalism with
Nick was on for a bit as well. I've seen
Dom, and Nick did
Nick does
Chemical engineering.
chemical engineering, and it's that kind of bringing in everyone.
Yeah, I think I like that idea that because it does touch every element, like, and everyone should be able to use each other, especially in the student environment. Like, it's a university is like it's kind of like a massive big family in a way, and everyone should. You get that you come, and I always have this. Even when I was at college, I had the idea that I could just use facilities from whatever course was. Do you know what I mean? To benefit myself, and I would always have this idea that you could do that at university, and I think that's quite a cool thing to be able to.
But then when we're talking about existing after uni, how do we then, like what, if this is a tool to like help everyone who uses it, like not just us, like what do we use after uni? If the bunker is like a concept that we like pass down, you know what I mean?
It's helped us get ourselves out there, so we're obviously from this we're going to be in a better stead and know more people because of this. Just like it would help other people.
But how do we actually go about passing something down? Because this is also something that you've been wondering with the ceiling tiles.
Yep.
Like, you can have an idea that it's something that we've set up, but we don't own it, and it
See, and I was
comes.
Liv and Katie are like putting their hands up because they want to take ownership of the ceiling tile. I've lost my train of thought. Well, I think
What am I trying to ask?
when in this, how do we pass it down through an institution when actually, if we've set it up, then maybe in 5 years' time it's still going. Then Northumbria start advertising it as this student-led thing, that's the bunker, and it then becomes actually the Northumbria.
Like it takes
like,
some ownership.
Yeah.
Like the university takes some ownership over it, even though it's not.
Even though it's good, I mean, it's good as well because the tutors are amazing, and they will go, did you hear about that really good exhibition that the students put on over there? Did you hear about this that they've been doing over here? But it comes to a point, if you pass something down that is something that will carry on and keep having this dialogue, then it becomes more of a structured thing rather than a talking point. Yeah. I suppose that's how societies work. In societies, as in union societies, is the fact that you have to pass it down. Yeah. You can't stay you can stay as an associate, but you can not be fully integrated into it because you're not essentially a student anymore.
Do we just build it as build a manifesto of an idea of what it should be, and then because I think it'd be quite interesting if I ever met anyone or we came back from a reunion just to come back like, oh, so how is it still going? And if it's not, it's like, oh, that's a shame.
Was it like Dead Poets Society kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's like the old guard kind of pictures on the photo frames and stuff like that.
Yeah. If it doesn't keep going, if we pass it down and people die off, then oh well.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the
When
world.
we say pass it down, does that mean we leave? Because I feel like it's hard to leave the ideas of, like you could leave, like the idea of like a broadcast or whatever. But the idea of, a group of people coming together to like, obviously that's not just us. There's loads of,
we invented that.
So then it's not like because that idea exists. How do we?
We just pass the platform.
You can't really.
The bunker's Instagram and the bunker's platform within that the art world. You pass that on to the next person, and they can use that whichever way they want to use it. Pass it on to a group of people.
But the bunker is a concept in your mind about conversation. So this could not. It might not be a broadcast. It could be the fact that someone transcripts a one-to-one conversation.
Or they just put exhibitions on, or they just start to like, I don't know, go do charity things or whatever, like, and they just create dialogues with other things.
And when we say pass it down, do we mean by year group or do we mean just by people?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like,
Because-
literally, on a practical level, what does it mean? How do you do that? And how do you do that without it being co-opted by the institution as something that it owns,
Yeah.
rather than a student body owns?
Because we could pass it
And also-
essentially up.
Yeah.
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 And how do we pass it down without being really selective about who we choose
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, because it's being conscious of the fact that ethically,
Sign
Yeah.
up board.
it's
we
a...
could just put like sign up board, five little slots, first 5 people, and then that's it.
But then
But they
the,
have-
the
Like,
like,
that's
intrinsic
not the
part of it is
concept of,
friendship.
yeah, that's not
And
the
it's about
concept of the
everyone
bunker.
has a seat.
Mm.
And that, oh, you've been drawing, like, I think I've seen you draw it every bunker talk. The circle with arrows
The
facing
tunnel.
it, 5 of us in.
Yeah.
Oh no,
There's loads in
Yeah.
and then out, and then there's like stuff. Probably would you just put out an open call for people that would be interested in it doing. If it doesn't, if we can't do
But
that,
if
then
the
it
core-
just, then just fit like
Yeah.
settles
It-
a bit.
it'd be
that goes back down to the artist's hand though.
I think
Yeah.
that was really interesting what you said about friendship, because the core part of this, what makes this work, is that we're all friends. We were all friends
Existing
before this.
friendships, yeah.
Like, I know you can become friends during the making, but then
And if you did an open call, how does
is it
that?
really like authentic? If you, I don't know.
You can become friends during the making, but it's just it's different. Like, having an existing friendship changes the way that we've like interacted.
Sorry, Gail literally caught my face when I was like this.
So Gail's now in the gallery
She's present
taking
in the
pictures.
space.
And I've got to say, Malachi, she has a bigger camera than yours. So.
Malachi.
Do they just not just do it the way they would do it with like reps? You know, like how you guys are reps and then people volunteer.
So now all reps are elected.
Yeah.
But yeah, well then do people not just elect 5 people to do the bunker?
Who does the electing? I feel like this is.
We would
I don't
be.
really know. I'm
If
just
we-
wondering all the questions about from a practical
Yeah.
level, like how do you ethically and fairly, but also retaining the integrity of what it is. How do you actually go about passing something down? Because I think it's really hard.
How do you mean ethically?
And
Well,
also,
so-
if this was, I feel like it's a different thing passing it down. If this was passed to us, how would we feel about that?
So from an ethical point of view, I was
Yeah.
like picking up on what Olivia had said. Like, if we go and select people, that's kind of us knowing that we've kind of got something that could be advantageous, and how do we make sure we're choosing people for the right reason to give them
Yeah.
that? And what is the right reason to choose people, and who decides what the right reason is? I think that's just, and I don't know what the answer to that is. I just think it's something to bear in mind that our choices also aren't neutral.
Because we've got a vision, we've set out and we said 8 shows, start and ending. If we kind of go to someone and say, we want you to carry this on, and they go, but I quite like the idea of finishing it,
Yeah.
or doing this, and then we go,
Yeah. Oh, maybe not.
No,
so-
choose someone else then.
Yeah.
Like, is
Yeah.
that undermining their autonomy to make that decision?
Yeah, to be able to.
And
do
as soon
that.
as we hand it down, is that?
Are we out, or are we
Obviously.
still like
Yeah.
puppeteering? You know?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
like, they definitely
Not so much
once
puppeteering, but
once someone else,
Policing.
once
Yeah.
other people take over, man, we have to relinquish completely.
but what if 3 of us left?
yeah.
Do you mean if some other people were in there, then you would have to make sure that it
How-
wasn't like
So if 4 of us left and you were the only one that was still here,
yeah.
how do you think people would consider your role? Would people see
You'd be one of the
see
founding
you like we
fathers.
see
If
Katie
you like
now?
how Robin
Because of the
felt
bus
in
thing.
Red, I think,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a way.
I don't think I would like that either. I would probably try and pass it on to 5 people so I can get the hell out of it.
Well, because
Oh, 5,
even if you
right,
didn't
5.
want to and you wanted it to be really
Yeah.
democratic, people would look at you in some sense as a kind of leader just because you had that.
And I
And
don't think I
also,
would like that because
if
don't
it-
I think that we don't operate like that here.
Yeah.
So I think it's
But it would kind of be out of your hands. It wouldn't be someone trying to make you feel uncomfortable. It would just be something that people did.
I know that's why I would just remove myself. I would probably just like.
But also, you said 5. Like, I would just, but if it's just an idea of this is, it could be
Like I said, it
6,
doesn't
it
have to
could be
I just
2,
thought
it
there was
could
5.
be.
It doesn't have to be 5 people. It could just be me. I could just not.
Oh.
We are the artist hand.
Yeah.
Five fingers, but one of us the thumb.
And pie thing.
I
That's
think.
you.
No, it's Katie with the bus train thing.
When Ed leaves, it just come back just us four then.
Never gonna live that
Bye,
one
Ed.
down.
You're a loner and
Unless you're coming back from a
But but unless I'm coming back from masters,
Well,
but that means I'm a
he's gonna hang
student.
around.
So what if I didn't do a masters and I was just
Living.
living
think
in Newcastle?
Being
Would you
praised
still?
in Newcastle.
Yeah, would you still consider my point valid within the
No.
argument?
I don't know. I would still think consider you valid. Like that's
Yeah, yeah,
that's
'cause it's a
you there.
person-to-person
Yeah,
kind of
That's not like
deal.
I don't think that's everyone's valid. I just think. I don't know really. I think it's important for students to be the choreographers. Choreographers.
But is that something that you need to kind of pass down, or is that just something that you can make there be available an archive of to maybe give people an idea of how they might go about setting up their own projects, but you retain the bunker as
Yeah.
something we have ownership of, and it goes with us wherever we go.
Because I think for it to work, you have to have the students who do it have to have wanted to do it, and you know, passing it down just kind of not really forces, but it just kind of encourages them to do this thing, but they might not have thought of.
Not only if they want to do it. I'm not going. You must do this.
No, I know, but it's that like you've got to.
If no one
If
wants
the
to do
idea
it,
is that you kind of take control of like your own learning, or like if this is what this is, we're kind of trying to teach each other.
if no one
then-
wants to do it, then it just dies off.
Is that including us?
We could do it. I don't know. That's
But
just
why couldn't we carry this on?
Yeah, this
Like
is,
out of the institution, surely. I don't know.
We can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
Wait,
everyone was
no,
like,
no one's going with, guys, this is it.
Feel like
Yeah.
we just want to raise all the questions.
Yeah, of
What
course,
do you
like,
think?
the
Like,
thing
how
does-
do you think it would operate if it was to be existing outside of the institution of the uni?
I don't know. I don't know. That's such a hard
Do you think that would
question.
present different challenges?
I feel like a lot of what we have spoken about is to do with our position within the university. So to be out of that, it would just be, the bunker would be about something
it would just be talking about our experiences.
in
At
like
the
the
time.
world, or like it would just be where we are at the time, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, that would, if we said we're going to go over to Vane Gallery and just going to sit there for 5 days and just talk about, or like on that kind of first day we kind of figure out what we're going to talk about for the next 4 days, because that first day would be kind of going, well, it's weird that we're in Northern Charter, or like underneath Northern Charter, sorry, and we're in this commercial union house and talk about that, and then we'll go, actually we're opposite Tyneside Cinema, so let's talk about film.
Yeah.
So is it, the idea is that with what Charlie was saying, it's about the conversation concept, and then it's about place,
Situation.
situation. We could talk about all those things.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Like,
And talk about us, like, say if we reconvene in a few years and we're like, okay, let's recreate it now, we're all postgrads and
yeah, I'm
we don't
interested
have
in.
the same kind of
Do you remember at the
situation.
beginning when we kind of like were thinking about this and we said we should do it in different places all around the uni?
Mm-hmm.
So like to go over and do it in the middle of the library or the student central place where we've got people walking past,
Yeah.
but we just sat there with this same table.
it'd be such a different experience because there'd be a lot more
noise for one.
sort of ad hoc,
Noise.
yeah, and like ad hoc
We'd have to get
interaction,
headsets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or like.
Which we have had a fair bit of, but it would be a different
But it's such a
But it's a
high
different
footfall
audience,
there, isn't it?
and it's a different audience. It's not.
Well, that's interesting. Well, because Georgia did a performance over there, didn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, how
And
did
she,
that go?
she got told off because
Malachi was actually there at that moment.
Was that when you saw-
when she was cutting on?
Yeah.
What happened? Because I heard about it just
I
before
think
she...
it was mainly me that was told off than Georgia.
Oh, why? You were just taking pictures.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
there were people around.
So there's the student
So-
central space, and
Exactly.
the library have
So there may not be
this rule.
any pictures taken of them, but I wasn't
But-
at the time.
That's quite strange because the student, like Vanessa, was also doing a performance in a different part of the library, and she was meditating with her eyes closed and headphones in, and like there was just people gathering around her
Yeah.
taking photos, and it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I-
Were there?
It was,
Okay.
but Vanessa.
Yeah.
It was interesting because Vanessa was sort of like less in direct sight of the ask for help like staff desk,
Yeah.
whereas Georgia was like really obvious to them.
yeah.
Um, and I suppose like the whole onions and the bucket and everything was just so visually obvious, whereas Vanessa was sat on the floor on a yoga mat.
Yeah.
Is that area like front of house now then?
I think that's
The big
The
glass
whole
box, is that like the
yeah.
come to the Northumbria University, this
Well,
is
no,
our
it's
main
the
entrance?
whole like ask for help, like so any issues you have, any students come there.
No, I think
It's the main
Isn't
entrance.
it?
Like you still need
Yeah.
a card to get in at
Yeah.
a certain time.
Yeah.
So it's also for, well, it's mainly for students.
Yeah.
But also it's like the grand
The main
entrance
entrance,
kind
yeah,
of
It's like a public facing
like
bit,
this
isn't
side
it?
and that
Yeah.
side where
Northumberland
John Ross as
Street.
well. Yeah.
Cool.
But it's just like in the uni, it's weird how they have rules and different rules in every building, and depending on who it's run by, and like whether you can film or you can take like the
Yeah,
students'
do you remember
union, because that's
the
a totally.
workshop.
Yeah, me and Katie got told off, and we weren't allowed
We couldn't
to film
find anywhere.
because you have to have written permission in advance from the president of the students' union to do any kind of filming in there. But we just were trying to do something for part of like a video workshop that we had like half an hour to do. So.
But we couldn't. Where did we end up?
And then we tried the library, and then they were like, oh, you need to email this supervisor. And so we kind of just were like, okay. And then you understand why you always see people in video workshops right there in that corner filming outside.
That's where we
It's
ended
the only
up.
place you don't get told off. So,
Or out the back of the annex.
Yeah,
Very
there's
car
loads
park.
of
yeah,
people
but we
like
got
that.
told off when we were doing the thing with Rio there the other week.
Did we?
Oh yeah, we did.
Oh,
Security.
Security. That time was campus security. And he was like, shouldn't have this door open, and you shouldn't.
They're
do
really,
this and that.
yeah, there's fire
So-
doors. They're really upset about
Yeah.
fire doors.
The union, it was just a member of kind of permanent union staff, and the library, it was someone who works at that desk in the.
Yeah, but it was.
Which, you know, that's their job though.
Yeah,
Job
yeah.
to do that.
I feel like it's not their opinions necessarily.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just-
yeah.
It must be like hard to keep track of all the buildings and each
Yeah.
rule for each place.
Yeah.
You can't film here, but you can move 10 metres down there and you can film and get away with it. But it's like-
Students are running around.
But it's like this, I don't know if like through the bunker broadcast people have heard the alarms going off next door. But that's because there's a fire exit in between the two gallery spaces.
Yeah.
And there's the toilet right in the middle because this is a repurposed building. But you can't come through the door to the fire exit there. It's locked. And people come down the stairs thinking they can get through here. So they go straight out the back, and that sets off the alarm for the collections room, this room, the other one. And then it's, you can only turn that off at the foyer or the old foyer.
But no one's allowed to know the code to turn it off because you have to kill security and you have to wait. I guess like working in the university has a lot of challenges. Yeah.
So the possibility of moving out of the
Gallery.
or out of the university and then out of here to do the bunker somewhere else is exciting.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Yeah.
There's definitely challenges for the university, but there's also advantages in some ways. Like we have access to a lot more facilities and resources than we would otherwise.
I'm sorry, totally to see the biggest difference.
When I just put food in the around, sorry. But for example, the equipment we have access to for the university, even though it's a fact and you have to do a risk of
Yeah.
2 seconds. Okay. We would never be able to afford that ourselves.
Yeah.
So
But we can take that equipment. But
then you still have to risk what you're doing with the equipment. You're doing with the equipment. What level of risk is it?
Did we do an ethics for this?
We didn't.
No, we didn't. So right. So it'd be the the director and the curator would have to do the ethics one.
Whereas maybe
So we can say shit.
no, we'll come back. Maybe the direct part of what you do like in the student studio or something.
As your practice.
I feel like we've been asked to do that, which is
But then if you strip this down to the fact that you take the microphone away, and we just sat at a table, what's the difference in this and let's just have lunch together and get it. And then if that's a studio practice, call this.
Well, that's the difficult thing. So like what Georgia does, Georgia spends so much time putting in risk assessments and ethics forms because of the work that she does. She just sort of going and filming in community groups. But because she's doing that and then she's using it as part of her kind of studio practice, because of that, because it comes into the uni context in that way, even though it's not directly in it, she then has to learn all these forms, whereas if she was just going and doing that, she wouldn't necessarily, she maybe wouldn't just like to attend like a training session about safeguarding, and that wouldn't come in it. Resistance.
Yeah, I think is it about using other people's, well, I don't really understand it, like the ethics, what's it covering these forms?
Different things, they're often about like if you are using, you often get asked to do one if other people kind of form a part of your work, because it is like an ethical issue that you can't really use other people as your material, which is weird. They told me that Katie was my material.
So they said they're using opinions in their people. So do you know what we were saying earlier about if I went like Sam in a different year to you guys and I said this is mine and I'm going to get this grade because I've used what you said. So I could like essentially we've got loads of material that we've talked about and I could just edit out all of my stuff and just use your stuff. But it's the bunker as a collective as a thing that we all put together. So would I have to do an ethics form for that?
I don't know if they would ask you as a university, because I feel like
You might.
on
You
a
would.
personal level,
No, I definitely want to do that.
that's a really hard thing, because I think ethics is so like it's mixed up with like loads of other things, and no one's going to have the same view on what you do and don't have to consider. I think the idea behind it is that it just makes you take into account the wider like privileges and positions and kind of like discourses that are at work, but actually it's become just another form of red tape in some ways, the way that it operates.
Because what does it ethics form do? Doesn't cover you? Is that what you said?
I don't know. This is what it covers for. Like, is it
risk assessment covers the university in case something happens.
of risks?
Yeah. But ethics form, like, I'm not sure.
Is it more just about considering the risk rather than like covering it?
So, for instance, you're recording.
Come
You're
to the mic.
recording like other people's voices, right? And your views. So, like, you've got a disclaimer which kind of does outline your kind of ethical stance with that. But then at some point, whoever's been recorded might be like, I wasn't aware of being recorded during this, unlikely, but that's not cool, I don't want you to use that, and then you've already filled out an ethics form that kind of considers that. I think it's much more to do if like you are working with people with protected circumstances who might not have consent within themselves to be able to, you know, so like children and you know, people with other types of disabilities and whatnot. That's where ethics kind of comes into, like, really. So yeah, George's practice.
Yeah, definitely, it's like a massive thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like capacity to consent, like, because there are some examples where you know that it's an obvious ethics form thing, and then there's so many kind of grey areas where you're not sure whether or not it's an ethics form job.
Yeah, and like people that are, so who did the Louise Mackenzie thing?
Oh yeah.
So like she's been doing her PhD research with like a lab looking at cellular whatever. So she, like, her ethics in terms of her PhD research is like quite a large ethics form type thing. Whereas there's other people that are just looking at archives that are sort of pieces of paper. So their ethics forms are quite minimal. It's just like, oh, I'm going to this archive. I can't harm anyone.
And Louise was saying about how that's a big area of Christine Borland's research about kind of like when people donate their bodies after their death, like kind of like whether people can donate their bodies for arts or that kind of thing rather than for science, and like how do you define that, and how Yeah, because it's such a really difficult ethical area. Because obviously
You
they
can't
then
get
don't
through,
have exact
yeah.
control over what happens, do they? But
Apparently Mick told me they used to do life drawing in a mortuary.
Over at the
Mick tells that.
Newcastle still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got their, whatever it is, their mortuary in Newcastle University, so they used to be quite
They
open
have
about
a mortuary
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
Well, because they got the medical schools. There's loads of cadavers.
cadavers.
That's like the what they call
specimens.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So yeah, Olivia's got like access, Olivia Turner, she's got access into there and she's kind of looking into the cadavers and that sort of thing.
Cool.
Mm.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Cool.
guess it does go into that area. They can't really give consent to art-related activities, but if they've given consent to science.
Yeah.
and
And where does science and art? Because in some ways they kind of
well,
cross
yeah,
over.
like in Olivia's work, it does
Yeah.
really cross over.
But also, you know, it can change because you might consent to your work being an art, but different people have a different framing or understanding of what is art and what's an type of art they would or wouldn't be willing to be. Anyway, I don't know. It's, that was a good example of ethics. There's definitely more like
Yeah, it's like that
Yeah.
exhibition. I don't know what he and male artists use those live bodies, but took away the skin.
Yeah.
Or the
And it was they were all doing like
it's in Amsterdam,
sports.
isn't it? Body Worlds. Is that what you mean?
I have no idea what it's
Oh
called.
yeah, there's this thing called in Body Worlds.
I think quite a few people have done it.
Yeah.
Stuff similar.
Yeah, preserved. You can walk around. It's like loads of preserved bodies and stuff. They've all like agreed to have their bodies donated to this guy previously. They explain it all at the beginning and stuff.
Madame Tussauds, isn't it?
David Beckham.
Yes.
They're not really,
Really?
wax.
thinking about the fact we've got like 10ish minutes
Yeah.
left. Have we gone through all of these, or have we not gone through some?
I think
last
we
10
kind of talked
minutes.
about ownership versus authorship and how we can take ownership of it after this, and then
Yeah.
are
They
we the
all
authors
bleed
of it?
into each other anyway,
Yeah.
don't they?
I think we
So-
did really well to say that we did Thursday and Fridays, the 3 Thursday and Fridays in the middle, but the 2 topics bled into each other quite nicely.
Yeah.
And I think all of them, without us like covering our tracks each week,
Yeah.
we did talk about a lot of different stuff, but they all are quite similar.
Yeah. Well, especially within the context of talking about them. They are
Yeah.
so similar.
Yeah, you need.
Sometimes I think at
yeah.
points it's been quite hard to distinguish
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
one talk from the next and we're like, we keep bringing up the same thing. But it's been
Death
like,
of the author, Katie.
yeah.
Just keep bringing that one back up, don't you?
So would you say?
I only mentioned about 4 out of
So would you say what's a good thing that we've done?
I literally was about to say
activities.
activities
That was
and,
fun.
and the fact that it's been like a performance which is cool.
Yeah. I think it's been really. I find it interesting that kind of because of the like practical constraints and that we couldn't be in the room that we initially wanted to. But I actually think that's been really
Like a positive change.
yeah, and I like how sometimes sort of like responding to like the actual site or the context of what you can and can't do can lead to some more choices you might not have made, but that are actually quite like.
It's like we said the other week, where it's like with restrictions, you find sometimes you end up with the more exciting things.
It's opened us up to people coming and joining us. That wouldn't have happened if we were in that
Yeah,
room.
that's true.
I think this format really works
Yeah.
because I was thinking about symposiums and conferences and Q&As. These kind of conversations, some of them are in like a line table and you kind of have to look down the table to talk to someone or talking to the audience. We've not specifically set out a space for people to sit, people to stand. There is a lot of space behind you, Sophie, to kind of stand and sit and listen, but we're directing our conversation at each other right now. We've all got our backs to someone at one point, but it's this conversation, we are encouraging people to come in, but I think the audience, I think,
Still
would
think
be
we got observed. I think
observed, so like it's like the performance.
I don't like to put that. For some reason I don't like to put put it onto a later performance because I don't think we thought about it in that way.
Yeah.
I think it changes it a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not.
I've noticed that it's like we've been observed though, definitely.
You're a specimen.
But I think
You're a
it's
you're
not
not
to do with
cadaver.
the way that in our minds, we have an idea of what performance is, whereas this is performance, but it's not like theatrical and in your face.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's not performance, though. It's just a different type of performativity.
And it's durational
Mm.
in its.
In
Yeah,
fact, that's
in
eight
its
weeks.
genre.
I think it
Yeah.
is quite performative in the
I
way
think
that
it
you
is
come
as well.
here, you bring research, you leave research on the table, you have notes. We all sit, we all have. Like, I don't
We
know.
move
I move
around
my
and do
arms
stuff.
even though you can't see
It
them.
goes like this the whole time. Like,
I kind of like the fact that like Kate and I can look at each other and kind of go, have a little bit of a laugh, but no one can see that. Like it's the performance. It's like it's the not.
Yeah, that's the- you
yeah, that's
start-
friendship. That's like.
You start going into everything then, don't you?
Olivia
It's like
always
everything
pulls
you do in life
faces
has
at
that
me.
element of it. As long as, just because as soon as someone spectates on you, does that mean every element of your life has this performative element to it?
Yeah.
But do you need a spectator for something to be performative?
Yeah.
It's like.
But we frame this within an art
Yeah.
gallery,
Yeah.
so essentially,
I definitely think the presence of the windows to me adds to the idea of it being performative.
Yeah.
Because
when you've got your back to it,
I do, and I have to express with my back.
you're literally just looking at Katie and the
Well,
wall.
Yeah, it's a good view.
Aww.
The wall, that is.
Okay, we've done this the wrong way around then. Something bad, maybe that we can change.
Okay.
Oh, reflections on this process.
Yes.
Maybe tidy up a bit on the table.
All right, Malachi.
Hi, Brennan.
Give us 10 pence there.
Well, okay, Malachi. Why do you not think that because this was we
now
didn't
he's
set
going to
out,
go in depth. Malachi,
we
you should
didn't
have
set
said
out
it.
to do this.
Oh, did you not?
We just left it as we went along.
Mm.
So it wasn't a process that we would go, oh, we'll do this. Why do you not think this works?
Actually, well, the first of all was a joke. The second
Oh, okay.
I think it's like, in a way, it's like a studio space. It's quite like a personal space. You feel comfortable in it. Like there's certain elements of everyone's.
If we weren't
notes
here though,
and stuff like that. You are.
if we weren't here though, would you still feel comfortable touching it?
If I didn't know you guys,
Yeah.
then yeah,
And we weren't here.
yeah.
Yeah.
What
But-
you
So we just leave him now
would
and see
you
what he
would
does.
you feel like you could touch it, or do you think that there's? Cause I don't. Yeah, like sometimes I've come back and been like, has anything actually moved? It looks like it's all in exactly the same
This week,
place.
I don't think anything has. But
But we
there's
do
been
have
other.
a big sign on our digital box. Like,
I don't
Yeah.
think people know that that's necessarily the box. People could assume that means the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly.
Definitely people do touch the stuff.
Yeah.
do they?
I
Oh, that's
like
good.
That's
that.
good.
I like that.
That's
I
what
like
we
that, it's
want.
good.
It kind of reflects on what you were talking about before, like in other sessions. So, like, I guess they were talking about what an arc.
What I was interested in, I looked at this and I was like, oh, I've not seen that, and that doesn't actually relate to anything that we've been looking at.
No,
So
that
someone
was,
else,
get there.
that was. I feel like all the.
or are these just slips?
That was
from
local
the
upcoming
culture.
events. That was like stuff that's happening.
What,
for
a
uni.
Scandinavian design for you and your home?
Oh, maybe not.
Maybe
Interior designs?
Come out of the magazines.
it would have fell out.
Or someone's come and put it on the table.
What you wanted to say was someone's put it on the
Yeah.
table.
We should have left it all.
They-
People to leave things.
Contributed to this table.
That's what I'm thinking, like, when we're not here, people are taking... Do you think anyone's taken anything?
Well, maybe.
Mhm.
Do you think anyone? Well, other than that, has anyone left us anything? Like a little note?
Well, I would
or-
say...
I mean, yeah, but those were kind of we actively said.
That's so cool.
Leave us notes, draw us pictures.
Did
like,
you do these?
Gail did those.
I think there's another one there.
Yes, they're so on the walls, like near the pieces, there's graphite to explaining each work. So, do you know, like the convention of having a wall piece, like something that size?
So, what do we think that we have learned from the process? Like, what was maybe challenging in ways we didn't expect, and
I think definitely making sure that every voice gets heard
yeah,
can sometimes be quite problematic because not everyone's is the same, is as vocal as other people, and it's been good to try and like navigate that and try and find a way to make sure people get their voices in because it's like, yeah, think that's been a biggie.
Ed, what
I know
about-
interrupted people.
What?
I don't.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah.
What's your main kind of reflection on, or what do you think has been like maybe a challenge we've had to work through, or something unexpected?
I like the fact that we're a cross-year group.
Okay.
I think that's something that is. I'm all about kind of showing off the way.
Such a show off.
Showing off the way that we can learn as students and being sort of active in our learning. And I think with the fact, I know we have done it in other places as well, but I really like the fact that we were successful in the fact that our 2-year groups come together. I think the challenges that we've faced are the sort of, other than halfway through more or less every episode we've gone all weird and roboty, it's getting that voice and getting that, making sure everyone is heard. And
So we've gone MFA and PhD as well, so
Yeah.
it's been like, there's been like a multitude of different things going on,
Yeah.
and it's been interesting to see how that is like balanced out, or if it is balanced out.
And not being like crystal clear perfect, like we're just so not like that. So
well, yeah, I think that reflects the studio as well.
yeah.
Not everyone's crystal.
Yeah, I like that. How can I put it? It's like a studio space. I think that's.
Has that changed like how we think of the gallery space? I think like how.
I think it's changed how I view this. Or how maybe I will think about it, but I think there will still be a lot of gallery space that will operate
Like,
in a white cube or.
you've changed your perception on how you see Gallery North, or just this,
Just
the bunker.
Just this, but also like the way I would necessarily approach it. But that doesn't mean that it's always going to be the way that everyone else is going to do it.
I feel like for me, I feel like it's changed my relationship with Gallery North as a place, because I feel a lot more comfortable in Gallery North.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, I feel more comfortable coming into this space.
And like more like
We'll
it's
have a
okay
bit
to
of
come
like
in.
Until we see another show in here.
That'll-
And then
yeah,
it'll-
This
that'll
is
be
our
amazing.
home.
Sentimental.
Like this is our homestead. We're
Oh,
What is
Like-
the next show in here? Is there
like, well, this thing there was the show and it's got either pulled out or something like that. But there is something else
How do
coming
you
in.
know all these things?
I'm the inside man. Yeah, so there's the fact that next time we come in, not next time because we're going to help deinstall it probably, and it's the next time we come in and see another show in here, we're going to go, oh, the table used to be there. Oh. And I think we're going to look at this completely differently. The fact that there's nothing on there's. Imagine seeing something on the wall now.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Shook.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think this has changed. This show has changed how we see it, but it's going to affect the way we
View it.
view it now, like after.
yeah.
Come Degree Show as well. That it would have been a great opportunity, I think, for third years to listen to how or see this show, how it can work as a Degree Show space as well, collectively, as what we were saying earlier. Like this space is different to the third floor and annex, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Sorry.
I think one thing that I feel like I would maybe have done, well, that we've learned through the process and that maybe in future would do differently is to have a more, spend more time thinking about like the ways that we go about facilitating and how that role of facilitator operates, because that's definitely something we've learned through the process, because I think we had like a very challenging episode with that, and maybe we were in some way like, I don't know if it's naive or just like not aware that maybe like we needed to have a bit more of like a
Or lack of experience.
yeah
Like, we'll just gain that
yeah
through doing this more, like
Gain
girls.
that.
We just-
Well, I feel like you
Gain
learn,
experience.
you always learn through doing.
Yeah.
Katie?
Katie. Caddy Heron.
What what are your thoughts on the challenges or what you might do differently?
Oh, I don't know. I
Ooh.
wasn't expecting you to.
You weren't expected to talk for the last 8 weeks.
Silent
I'm kidding.
Oh, I don't know.
You're the final note.
Yeah, no,
This is
I'm
the-
so on the spot now.
So much pressure.
You don't have to be the final one. We'll make Olivia do another one. Don't worry.
I was just gonna say about like what I've learned, like about how you can take this idea away from this table. You know, like what I was saying about we're talking about how we're going to work together more outside of this, or like work with different people and just like collaborate in general.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, no, Kilo.
Okay, Liv, thanks for that.
Olivia's out.
So I think, just
Thank
Thank
you
you.
to everyone.
Yeah.
Like,
Cool.
Like, thanks
Excellent.
to
all the guests,
all the guests we've had.
the paparazzi.
Our paparazzi Malachi, shout out. Our listeners,
Louis. For
And a
Louis, Gail.
A massive thank you to
Thank you to
Gail.
Gail.
Yeah.
The biggest of all thank yous to Gail, who has taught us a lot.
Yeah, which is
I
good.
think the whole
Yeah.
thing has been, if you summarise, it's been just learning
Yeah.
every element of it. Even doing something we've never done before.
So just to kind of like that, we kind of said as the proposal that we aspire to come into the gallery, and it's this kind of, what was it? It's more of a less used as a research. Did we say it was less? Like a
We
research
wanted
thing,
it
or-
to be
An active
Active?
learning space that was
We
less
wanted
like
it to
a
be.
resource. You wanted it to be an active learning space that was less like a resource.
Yeah.
okay.
So with the Gallery North's website saying that the providing quality learning experience, dynamic research environment and professional exhibition space, do you think this has helped then? Just a yes or no?
For us, yeah.
Yeah.
For other people in the future,
yeah, that's true.
I think it's for us. We've had quite big privilege to be able to use this as a research facility, but it doesn't mean that's going to be the case for every student.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Well, we've been the bunker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are
Over and out. Question mark.
Good. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.